Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me clearly, well enough. If you're in the back and you cannot hear, please do let us know. Thank you very much. I'll speak louder. The whole purpose of this meeting is to ensure that you get information. So obviously the starting point of that is making sure you can hear us. Before I turn it over to the four members of Corvus who are standing behind me, just to let you know that my name is Nick Wright. I'm an attorney from Manchester, New Hampshire. I practice with the law firm of Bouchard, Kleiman and Wright, and I've been retained by this gentleman to help them form their business. Preliminarily, I'd like to thank Rob and Kendra for allowing us to hold this forum here on their property, and most importantly, on behalf of myself and Corvus, we'd like to thank all of you for showing up and being interested in what they want to present to you, what they would like to propose for the use of that land. I am going to leave the details of that proposal up to them. They're going to do their best to provide as much of a description of what they intend to do at this point. Please do understand this is very preliminary. The information they've put together is preliminary. To the extent you're looking for rock-solid details, that information may not come today. We will have a question and answer session at the end, but we're hoping by the time these four gentlemen have made their presentation, many of those questions will have been answered already. And I have to say personally, as a fellow citizen of New Hampshire, I just love to see this kind of a meeting. This is New Hampshire at its very best. This is democracy at its very grassroots. We have some people here proposing a business. We have other people who are concerned to see what that business is, and we're going to talk about it. And that in and of itself is what I think defines New Hampshire as a wonderful state to live in. As I said, we will have a question and answer session at the end. So once they've had their opportunity to make their presentation, we only have one microphone, so we'll invite people to come up. You can ask your question so everyone can hear what the question is before the answer is given. Just by way of background, before these gentlemen speak, they're going to provide the biography to you, but they're humble gentlemen. And I think perhaps I'm the one that has to tell you that these are four former U.S. Marines who spent the first part of their professional life serving in the Marine Corps in both Afghanistan and Iraq. That first part of their professional life is now over, not by choice. It's a matter of the duties that they had taken on and the toll they took on them. And as they're being discharged, they're looking around and saying, what can we do as four former Marines together that want to form a business? And this is the idea that took hold as Corvus Group. And that's what they're going to present to you. There has been some information flying around on the internet of black helicopters and whatnot. I can tell you right now that really is comic book stuff. That's not what's going to happen. I urge you all to listen to what they want to do. You don't have to agree. That's democracy again for you. But just have an open mind and listen and see what they want to do with the land and see if it's something that your community might welcome. And without saying any further, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Max Dodge.
Thank you. All right, so first things first, I just want to let everyone know that we have a cooler full of water over here. So I know this is a great day. We couldn't have planned this weather any better. Thanks, Gray, for planning the weather. So if you need some water, come on over and get it. So I want to lead off with just a little bit of information of who we are. Because like Nick said, there's a lot of stuff going around on the internet about us being a big faceless organization. And so this is a great opportunity to demonstrate to everyone here that it's the guys in the red shirt. That's who we are. This is it. This is the whole company. Step back here. So we are four disabled veterans embarking on an entrepreneurial venture. We have 3 Marines and 1 Army guy. I'd like to point that out. Thank you. I'm in the Army National Guard, so I'm not even active duty. I've been serving in the Army National Guard for a while. But we wanted to establish this business just like Nick said, as what is going to come after our time in the military. And it is first a shooting sports center, and then later an education and training center. So the very first thing that we're going to do is, we're hoping to do, is set up these shooting ranges so that people have a safe and constructive place to bring their firearms and to practice with them and just have an enjoyable recreational experience. And then, down the road a ways, after construction is complete, we're going to file for a license with the Department of Education to stand up a career school, a continuing education school. And our primary target audience, our primary customer there, is going to be the general public. And then our first responders, police, fire, EMS, and people like that. This is, like Nick said, a very preliminary thing. We haven't purchased anything. We haven't applied for anything. We have reached out to the people, first the people of the planning board to see if it was possible at all, and then to the people of the community. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from the community. And that's good. We need that. We need to hear your concerns so that we can address them and be as responsible as possible. So we're learning a lot about this process. And with your help, we'll learn even more. But ultimately, our goal here is to provide a meaningful service to our neighbors, to be good neighbors. Gray and I, we're from New Hampshire, and we'll be moving back to New Hampshire. We're very much looking forward to returning. There's an indescribable quality that it's just you can't find anywhere else in the country. So very much looking forward to coming back home. And then Brennan and John are going to be moving their families up here. So the point there I'd like to make is that we will also be citizens of this community. We want to be good neighbors, and we will be your neighbors. When we complete this planning process, we're going to move forward with it, is our hope. And we'd like to do that with the support of the community. So I'm going to hand the microphone off to Gray, and we're going to just go around and introduce ourselves to you so that you know who we are.
All right, good morning, guys. How's everyone feeling?
Good.
Undecided. So I used to live in Amherst back in 2001 for a couple years. We moved up from Atlanta, Georgia. Came up here after high school. I ended up enlisting in the Marine Corps, and since then I was a explosive ordnance disposal technician, bomb squad, essentially. I have the past 5-6 years in a soft community, special operations, explosive ordnance disposals. That's my personal background. Unfortunately, I'm medically retired. I was looking for something to transition to. I wanted to develop a small business, and with the four of us together, we've been able to make Corvus, able to continue on providing first response training to those that matter. We were all first responders. Unfortunately, we can't do it anymore, so at least we can pass on the training that we have to others. New Hampshire, for me, it was the only choice. There wasn't any other option for me. So Corvus or not, I'm coming to New Hampshire. This is where I'm retiring. This is where I'm bringing my daughter and my family, and this is where we're going to be. Max touched on it already. We want this to be a community atmosphere. For the four of us, it's a support network. We want to bring this to Bradford, especially with the property and the citizens we've already met thus far. It's important for us to be here, but we can't do it without your support, and we won't do it without your support. We're not going to impinge on the way of life here or disrupt the way of life if you guys aren't completely on board with us. And that's what today is all about. We want to make sure that everybody's heard and everything is addressed, and get the truth out. Something that we've stood by since day one is being 100% transparent. We have nothing to hide. There's no ulterior motives. We'll let you see it all. We'll give you all the information we have at this point, but understand that as of right now, this is preliminary. This is a conceptual idea, and we're still assessing the possibility or even the feasible nature of this whole venture. And hopefully after today, we'll have a good understanding as to where we stand within this community. That's all I have so far. John?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm John Stevens. I spent the last 11 years in the Marine Corps. I was born and raised in Hayward, California. So how do I fit in up here in New Hampshire? It's a good question. Unfortunately, I love the military. I was going to stay in. I spent half my career as a working dog handler training canines for the military, and I spent the other half. I crossed over into Special Forces. Multiple deployments, ended up breaking myself along the way. Unfortunately, my body didn't outlast my drive, I guess would be the easiest way to put it. So spent the last 2 years laid up in a hospital bed going through surgeries I had neglected, wondering where I was going to go next. So I ended up meeting Gray, same community, different company, so we kind of crossed each other in passing. He was on his way out for injuries, and then I was on my way out for injuries, so we were both kind of lost and scrambling. What do we do best? So after about a year of racking my brain, what my passion was, when I look back, it was training and seeing people progress and enjoy doing it. Was basically what it boiled down to. Gray already had this idea to do this venture, so it seemed to fit. And as we worked on it for multiple months and it progressed, it seemed like the right path for me. And at this point, I'm thoroughly convinced. So I'm happy that we have this showing and we get as much information as we possibly can. Instead of rambling on, and I pass the microphone. Thank you.
All right, how's everybody doing? My name's Brandon Moore. I'm a facilities and grounds guy. So, brief little history about me. I was born in Indiana, grew up there my entire life. 04, I enlisted in the Marines. Originally started out doing supply admin, so sat in an office. I realized that wasn't the path that I wanted to go down, so I joined explosive ordnance disposal. It's the same thing that Greg Hewitt did. Did multiple deployments. They ended up definitely taking a toll, and I had to get out before I wanted to. So at this point, we kind of all got together and kind of heard a common trend that we feel that this is the best route that we can go and the best way that we can give back. So from that aspect, for my personal hobbies, be taking care of the land, managing the wildlife, allowing this property to, accentuate the natural beauties the best way we possibly can. That's something that's very important to all of us. We're not going to come out here, we definitely know that we don't know everything, and we absolutely look forward to any input that we could possibly get. We absolutely looking forward to that. I really don't have too much else. Max?
Trying to manage that feedback. My name is Max Dodge. Originally I'm from Maine, but I moved down here back in 2003, and this is where I call home. I joined the National Guard, the New Hampshire National Guard, in 2004, and I've had the privilege of deploying with them on multiple occasions as a critical care flight paramedic in the dust-off unit up in Concord. And so that is my background. My education is in education. So I received my degree in training education from Granite State right here in New Hampshire. And then I took a job down in North Carolina, which is where I find myself right now. And almost immediately upon planting my boots on North Carolina soil, I was trying to devise a plan to get back to New England. It's a great place. I love the land of the pines, but I really love the mountains more. And so this is my plan to get back up into New Hampshire. All right, so now that you know a little bit about us, we're going to go in, we're going to hit some key topics that we have skimmed from people reaching out to us. We've gotten a lot of emails, we've got a lot of Facebook comments and messages and things like that. And every single interaction that we had with someone, regardless of the tone, it was a learning opportunity for us. People reach out to us and they have concerns. And to be perfectly honest, if I were here and there was a company coming in to strip the land and do all sorts of other crazy things, if that's all I knew about it, I would be concerned too. And so every interaction that we've had has been a learning experience so that we can now intelligently address some of these concerns. So the first thing we're going to talk about is safety. The number one concern, and there's a map floating around with concentric rings drawn around the property in 1 and 2 mile increments. And I give, as an art guy, because my first tour through college was in art school, as an art guy, whoever made that map, they did a really good job. So thank you for that. So let's address the safety concerns. For the firing lines, for the firearm ranges, every bullet that is fired from a gun will be contained. All right. So the current industry practice right now is that you go out and you shoot a firearm into a dirt berm, and that's how a lot of gun ranges have worked for a long, long time. And still to this day, firearms ranges that stand up, that is their method of containment. You shoot into the dirt and it's good, it's gone. Well, we aim to exceed that standard. So every round that is fired will be captured or contained in some method. None of the rounds that are fired on the property will leave the property. They won't even leave the designated range areas on the property. So a majority of the property will never see any impact from these firearms. For weapon safety on the actual firing line itself. So if you bring in your firearm and you want to shoot it at our firearm range, there will be at least one person there, Corvus staff, who is a range safety officer or an RSO. And now this is a certification you have to get. So they will be a certified range safety officer. They're also going to be certified in first aid. So in terms of the actual handling of a firearm on the firing line, we'll have someone there to be a coach, a mentor, to ensure safety, and in case something goes wrong, to be a first responder to ensure that we can handle those things. And then we are planning to exceed the industry standards in terms of some of the common concerns surrounding safety on the firing line. So what we would like to do and what we're investigating right now is actually running some background checks on new customers. As they come in, you do the same sort of background check that you would do with a normal firearm sale. And this is, we're looking into it. It's a possibility, but it would be a way to cut down on some of the unfortunate incidents that have been occurring as of late. Just keeping firearms out of the hands of people that shouldn't be handling them. So we are very, very committed to safety. And if anyone else can think of a safety concern that we haven't already covered, please bring it up to us. Reach out to us either here or later on down the road through our contact information. We will be appointing a full-time safety officer, and the only job of the safety officer is to look around and say, hey, you can't do that. So we are very much committed to safety. Buildings. So people want to know, what exactly are we building up there? We're planning to build 3 buildings. So 3 structures. We're planning on building a 2,400 feet of road. So taking the roads that's out there and widening them, improving them. And that's going to be 2,400 feet of road. And we're planning on building the actual firearms ranges. If you add all of this up, including the 20-foot wide roads going 1,200 feet or 2,400 feet, the entire total area that we're going to be clearing out is about 10 acres, 10 acres of land development. The administrative building is going to be one of our largest buildings, and someone had reached out to us and asked us, why do you need such a large administrative building? Well, it's because it's going to have our offices in there and our retail shop. So if anyone's ever been to a shooting range, you walk into the front desk and you give them your ID and all that. That's where the transactions for our business are going to take place. So that's our retail center and the offices. And then the other 2 buildings will be a modular classroom. So we'll be able to hold all of our classes there. and change the configuration of the walls to fit the needs of the class. And then the third building is going to be a maintenance facility, so basically where we store the lawnmower. And those are the three ranges that, or the three buildings right now that we're planning to construct. We plan to use the natural terrain features of the property to complement the construction of the range. All right. So what we are not planning to do is go in there and just clear cut the whole thing and turn it into a parking lot. Absolutely not what we're trying to do. So we want to use the natural beauty that is already in place to complement what we're trying to build. Our goal is to generate more than 20% of our total power requirements via alternative energy, such as solar. So for example, the trap shooting range that we have planned, that's entirely solar and battery powered. There's going to be no electrical lines going down there. It's powered by the sun and some battery backups. So we're looking for opportunities such as that in order to find alternative ways to power these buildings and be environmentally friendly. So someone asked us to compare what we're doing to the other purpose that this land could be used for, which is housing development. So they asked us to explain what the difference is between what we're doing and using dividing it up into 2-acre plots of land for houses. So compared to the development of 2-acre house lots across the property, we figured you could fit about 500 2-acre lots if you take into account the rivers and the ponds and the wetland. So a very conservative estimate of 500 homes. It'd be about 1,000 acres of developed land. That's people's backyards and houses and things like that. You'd also be looking at putting up power poles, digging wells, building and maintaining roads and other public utilities. For us, being able to limit our footprint to around 10 acres means that most of the land up there will remain forest land. And we have no intention of subdividing it up and turning it into condos and things like that. Another person said that that want to know the maximum capacity of the facilities and the parking. And honestly, we don't have that information right now. We're still working with the architect to determine what the layout is going to look like, what our parking is going to look like. And ultimately, it's not on us to decide that. We're going to present our plans, and then we will be told what the maximum occupancy of our buildings are and how many people we can park on there. So we don't have that information right now. Once we've completed all the planning process and all the surveys, the construction is projected to take about 4 months. So this is still quite a ways down the road. Anything to add? You want to? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to hand it off to Brandon. He's our facilities and grounds guy, so he's going to be able to speak a little bit more in depth on the ranges.
All right, thank you, Max. All right, so the buildings. As my colleague just said, we're looking at doing 3 major buildings between the retail shop, having the pro staff, armorers, stuff that we can readily access to help our clients out and meet their training needs. Retail shop, sell little things in and out. One of the facilities is known as the Flex Tech facility. Its basic role is a big 2,500 square foot area where we can hold anything from birthday parties to 4-H, Boy Scouts, any type of organization like that maybe we have not yet that maybe we have not yet identified. Coming down from there is the maintenance shed, which is where I'm going to store my lawnmowers. And then we go to a 25-meter range, and we have 25-meter range, 100-meter range, 300, and then it'll be a combined 500 and 1,000. Now, as Max touched on, we are, it's not standing out in the middle of a field. Can you lift the microphone? Sure, can you hear me now? All right, I did. All right, so what I had said, we're not going to go out and clear big swaths of area. We intend to use the natural terrain and mitigate as much of the clearing as possible. So with that being said, some of the things that we're doing on the range, I know noise is a big aspect. So contacting the people that we need to have the evaluations done that'll actually give us our numbers of how loud sound will be later on, we cover that, and we probably don't know everything we need to know yet, and we intend to find that out. But some of the stuff that we're preliminary already planning on doing, so in the firing lines themselves, you'll have the RSO there for safety, but inside of each box, there's sound dampening matting that we're intending on putting at the individual firing positions themselves. That'll help knock down some of the sound right off the bat. It's still a gun, it's still gonna make noise, we absolutely understand that. But the other thing that we're doing, we'll be putting berms on the side of the range, very roughly, of 8 to 10 foot tall, be earth berms. That'll help deflect some of the sound as well. You'll have overhead baffling, which is nothing more than a barrier to keep the rounds inside of their respective ranges. That also adds to the safety element. Now at the receiving end, or the impact areas, it has been widely accepted that shooting guns into dirt berms at high volumes has been fine for years. But as anybody young or old can say here, there's always been ideas that have sounded great and changed along the way. So the new trend or the new idea, you go into some of the upper end facilities, you'll be shooting into an angular metal box. Well, we're doing a little bit different. The way we're going to end up doing it is, it'll be a 8 to 10 foot containment area at the end. It'll be filled with granulated rubber. It'll be fire treated. And what that'll allow us to do is the rounds go in, they stay intact, they don't get blown apart, so lead doesn't get dispersed into the air. What that'll also allow us to do is, at the end, we can go through, we hire a licensed lead abatement company. They will come in and mine it safely and then redistribute the rubber back into the containment boxes. So there's no dirt. It cuts down on a lot of the possible lead contamination leaching into water sources or into local soil. That's something that we're very adamant on. One of the things that we also have in place is the sporting clays range. There's no possible way that you could catch everything, but part of doing a range is doing what's called a lead abatement plan. So how are we going to, before we even start sending rounds down range, how are we going to plan on capturing these rounds? How are we going to get them back out of the soil? So that's something that's very important, and we're having people way smarter than us take care of that, and we completely are fine with that. That's what we pay them for. So those plans will be put in place before we even start going. Now along with that, we do have, so the sporting clays down in the same area, we do plan on offering field archery as well as 3D archery for people to come out and have a good time and hone their skills. You know, like I said, we want to be a fixture in the community, not the guys that are considered a nuisance. So that briefly covers kind of a general idea of what we're going to be doing. After this is over, I absolutely expect to get a bunch of questions on facilities, and I absolutely welcome and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. All right, so we're going to touch on, like we was talking about, noise. And so we've got some layman numbers. Now, keep in mind that I'm not a math guy. I haven't taken physics, but I have run these by a few other people who have. They sound pretty good. So our proposed hours of operation, again, this is all tentative. We want to do 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, so normal business hours. For Saturday, we'd like to do 10 to 5, so starting a little bit later in the morning, and then Sunday, noon to 5. So people will be able to spend their weekends with us and do that in a safe manner. But we are going to be limiting our hours on the weekends, just so that we won't be a nuisance. In terms of noise control, the vegetation, the geography, the weather in this area, everything about that particular plot of land makes it an ideal place for sound control. What we've been looking at is the travel of sound. Obviously it varies based on the season. If it's warmer out, the sound's going to travel further. In the winter, the sound is deadened by the cold. But the numbers that we've put together at 1 mile from the point of firing, so again, the map with the concentric rings drawn around the outer edges of the property, that's not what we're talking about. The actual sound starts from the point of firing. So within a mile, the sound shouldn't be louder than 44 decibels. Right? That's my math there. So 44 decibels, if you look that up, that's somewhere between the hum of a refrigerator and an idling car. right? Yeah.
Excuse me. There was a report of gunfire just a few moments ago. How far
Yes.
away is that, guys?
I'm not sure. There was someone shooting over here this morning too.
Would you say that was 44 decibels?
I would say that was a lot more than 44 decibels.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at. So we have the vegetation, the geography, and the weather, right? So on flat ground, sound is going to travel a lot further than is contained by the geographical features, right? So we find ourselves in a bowl. You have mountains on one side, mountains on the other. So the sound shouldn't be able to get up over those mountains into Bradford proper. It would be directed south. Now, there's a longer distance. Yeah, right? All right. Sorry to my Hillsborough peeps. So the sound is going to be directed roughly south. Now, drawing the line from the point of firing down to Hillsborough proper is several miles, right? So the second set of numbers I have there, at 2 miles, the sound shouldn't be louder than 22 decibels, right? And 22 decibels is quieter than a conversation, right? Now, this is going to be affected by the weather and things like that, so we really won't know until we get the experts in here to do a study. These are layman's numbers. These are things that I did research and read research papers and things like that. This is me, Max Dodge, coming up with some numbers, all right? If you want to be put in contact with my math teacher from high school, he will refute everything that I've just said. So take it as what it is. So for the sound consideration, we have an ideal piece of property for controlling the sound in terms of natural features. And then anything that we do above and beyond that is going to continue to control that sound and deaden it down. Now, like we said in the very beginning, it's a firearm. It's going to make noise. You know, the average firearm is somewhere between 100 and 160 decibels. They're pretty loud. That's why we wear earplugs. But we can take, yeah, right. We can do a lot to minimize the propagation of those sound waves, and we are going to do as much as we possibly can in order to make that happen. All right, and for lead abatement. As Brandon got into, we plan to exceed every common industry standard in terms of capturing lead. The rounds will either be fired into specially designed traps, that's the granular fire-treated rubber, or contained through another system. The lead is then collected, it's mined out of there, so everything is stripped out and they wash it down and take the lead away by a certified lead abatement company. So this is nothing that we're going to be doing internally. We're actually going to hire a company of professionals to come in and do this for us. And then this takes place at regularly scheduled intervals to make sure that there's no chance of the lead leaking into the surrounding environment. So we're very serious about the control. Animal density. So some people have reached out to us in terms of wildlife. You know, what are we going to do to protect the wildlife? Are we going to drive them off the property? You know, concerns like that. And for me, that was actually like a moment. I don't know. Let's find out. So we reached out to the National Wild Turkey Foundation, right? Federation, I'm sorry. The National Wild Turkey Federation, and asked them, all right, so what's the deal with this? And what we found out is that shooting ranges like the one that we plan to construct tend not to create any long-term displacement or disruption of animals, right? The population density and quality of the animals actually tend to increase with the implementation of a responsible animal management program, right? And we do intend to implement these animal management programs under the guidance of organizations like the NWTF and in conjunction with state and local fish and game. So we are going to be reaching out to the people who know this and who can help us develop a program, not to just prevent them from running away, but actually to increase the numbers and the quality of some of these game animals. So you should actually see hunting, the quality of the animals and things like that increase as a result of the effective management of the land. All right, so public use. During our initial fact-finding visit up here, when we stood in front of the planning board, it was brought to our attention that there's a couple sites of historic value on the property. We know we have Aiken's pasture just north of our property, and we have the Blood Farm, and sites like that that are of regional and local historic value. We have no intention of closing those off to the public, right? What we'd like to do is, if possible, improve access and definitely mark them in some way so that if someone comes across it, they'll be able to read the historic sign and understand what this site, what the value is for New Hampshire history. You know, New Hampshire has a lot of history, especially as a veteran. I spent a number of years serving on the State Honor Guard up at the Veterans Cemetery, and if you've never had a chance to go up there and walk around the pillars of New Hampshire history, history is a big deal to us up here. And we definitely want to preserve that and, if possible, improve access to that. It's important to us. Other public uses for the land, we've been contacted by a number of snowmobile clubs in the area. And we understand that snowmobile is a part of the outdoor sports culture of New Hampshire. Absolutely. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to start a conversation with these local clubs. We have trail maps and things like that, but we really want to reach out to the local clubs and understand how we can best accommodate their access through the land. We know that there's at least one major trail that goes across the property to connect the Washington side to the other side of the property. So we want to figure out what we can do to not restrict their access, reroute if necessary, but just come up with some sort of plan to accommodate the snowmobile traffic through the property. This brings us to conservation. Overall, our goal is to manage the land in a responsible manner, in keeping with established best practices, right? So we're going to reach out to the organizations who can best inform us how to manage this land appropriately and responsibly. Like I said before, our intent is not to clear cut the land. It is not to destroy our precious natural resources up there. It's to manage them effectively. And we've discovered that through effective management, we can actually improve the quality of the area. Our intent is to only take the land we need out of current use and responsibly manage the remaining land in current use, right? We're open to seeking opportunities to put parts of our land in conservation, right? That was another question that someone reached out to us. Where are we going to create conservation areas? And the answer is, we're definitely open to that possibility. We have no idea where they would be. We have no idea yet, based on surveys and things like that, where we would put them. But these are things that are in the forefront of our mind as we move forward. One of our guiding principles in this planning process is we want to be good stewards, again, of our most precious resource. And it's something that we share, right? It's our resource. It's not the Corvus resource. It belongs to everyone who enjoys the woods of New Hampshire. And ultimately, it's a non-renewable resource. If you go in there and you ruin it, it's gone forever. And we don't want that to happen. We want to effectively manage that. I'm sorry?
Is it going to be posted? Posted, no trespassing.
Oh, is it going to be labeled no trespassing? So it's a public use facility, so we want to invite the general public in to use it. So it certainly won't be posted no trespassing. Now, there are certain areas on the property that will need to be controlled as part of the range complex. So those areas will have warning signs and things like that. But that's not keep out because it's private. That's keep out because this land is, not a good place to be during hours of operation. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay. So finally, our contribution to the community. We have two things here. Roads and taxes seem to be on everyone's mind when they reach out to us. So talking about roads, our research, our preliminary planning shows that there's two major roads from the point of access from 89 and through Bradford down into our area. Right? There's at least two roads there that are going to see increased traffic, consistent increased traffic from this business. What we plan to do is we're going to reach out to the New Hampshire Department of Transportation and to the local road agents, the people who know these roads best, and figure out a solution to contribute to the upkeep and maintenance and improvement of these roads. Right? We understand that it's gonna wear and tear on the roads, and we have every intention of making sure that those roads are improved and then kept up. And then finally, the last bit of information that we have before we open it up to questions is information on taxes. It was brought to our attention that right now the property generates about $800 every year in taxes. Once we have invested, and we're planning on investing several $1,000,000 into the building of facilities, the upkeep of roads and things like that. Once we've improved the infrastructure and we've invested millions of dollars into it, our planned contribution through taxes is going to be roughly $50,000 per year to the town of Bradford. And that's an initial number. So as time goes forward and we make further improvements, then that number will obviously change. And the number is approximate, but that is the ballpark what we're looking at for tax contributions to the town. Alrighty, so that's all the information that I've collected to put out based on your concerns. I'm going to hand it back over to Nick.
We hope that the information that's been provided thus far has answered a lot of your questions, and we're standing here willing to answer more. We've gone longer than we expected. We didn't start when we expected. If you can't stay, that's fine. You can leave when you choose to.
Answer all of our questions?
What's
Will
that?
you answer all questions that are here?
We
We have a commitment from you to do that.
You do not have a commitment for us to do it today. We will get answers to questions that are submitted to us. We have a limited amount of time to answer questions today.
We have a lot of people that have spent a lot of time, a lot of effort here. We just want our side heard. We've heard what you have to say.
Sure.
We want to be heard.
And I'm saying that we have a limited amount of time for questions today. However, we are making a commitment that what we don't get to today,
When?
By design.
well, we didn't design the start of time, but we will see what we can get to today. We're hopeful that a lot of that will be answered. And the other issue that we will run into here today is, again, this is not a plan that is ready for presentation. We're at preliminary stages, so we can give you preliminary information. To the extent that you're looking for concrete details and numbers, it's going to be difficult to provide that information today, so it may well be premature for some of the questions you have.
Could I ask you about the process? Are you going to have people line up?
Absolutely. What I'm going to do is, we have one microphone. I want to make sure everyone can hear. We can start a line if you like for questions, or here we go. Barbara, why don't you go first? You were. Here you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Great to see you all. I know I don't know you all, but I know I represent a lot of you. I'm the